The ancient restaurant was surrounded by a storm that was raging outside, the type of deluge that caused people to rush home to find warmth and protection. However, there was a slender figure crouched beneath the neon sign that was flickering. His heart was constricting.
Out!
On account of the weather, no youngster should be outside. It was a little girl, no more than 6 years old, who was holding a ragged rucksack with quivering hands. When Henry Carter, a mechanic who was rough but had a kind heart, was locking up for the night, he saw her waiting for him. "Hey, kid," he yelled out above the gust of wind. "Where's your mom?" With wide, eerie eyes, the young lady glanced up into the sky. "Don't have one." He battled for her, despite the fact that the adoption procedure was a shambles, since no one else would in his position. However, she also had bedtime tales, scraped knee bandages, and a father who never missed a school play. His whole existence revolved around her. Someone or something in Henry was destroyed by those 3 words. He was familiar with the experience of being unwelcome. Her heart sank as she looked at the picture that was attached. He squatted down next to her without giving it any more consideration. "Well, you do now." As a tribute to his late mother, Henry gave her the name Leela. While Leela was growing up, she was surrounded by grease-stained overalls and the smell of engine oil. On the other hand, Henry did not reveal to her the process by which he really discovered her. "Lila was more to my search for you, Lila. What was left for me was you." To the world of luxury that cast her aside, or to the guy who provided her with everything she could ever need. Many years later, Leela, who is now a sharp-witted writer, got a tip from an unknown source about a missing people case that had been going on for decades. It was her when she was a little kid. "And I ran with you because I couldn't let them destroy you." A letter was written that stated, "Ask your father about the night that he found you." Henry eventually lost his composure when confronted. In the evening, she had been abandoned by a rich family that was embroiled in controversy in order to conceal their secrets. At that moment, the walls of their cozy and familiar house gave off the impression that they were concealing something. The metal box that was within was rusty. As she walked down the corridor, she touched the framed photographs of her youth, which included pictures of her attending birthday parties, going fishing, and graduating from high school. Had her biological family been seeking for her over all of those years? Henry, a former worker, was the only one they trusted to keep her safe, but they never planned for him to retain her for the rest of his life when they hired him. Now, they desired to have her back. Lila was in a state of conflict. To whom did she belong? But Henry had one more bombshell to reveal. "I knew who you were," he stated outright. Through the use of her investigative talents, Lila was able to uncover the horrible background of the family, so ensuring that they would never again be able to harm her or anyone else. And as she stood next to Henry, the guy who had put everything on the line for her, she came to the realization that family is not the same thing as blood. It's the love that holds on to you no matter what. Following Henry's confession, Leela was unable to go to sleep. Then she became aware of it. Near Henry's bedroom, there is a floorboard that is loose. While her heart was racing, she forced it open. By the time she raised the lid, her hands were shaking. On the inside, an old newspaper clipping about a prominent Lockwood family heiress who has gone missing due to unexplained circumstances. A baby bracelet with the name Eleanor Lockwood etched on it from the beginning. The image was burnt, and it showed a lady who looked very similar to Lila holding her when she was a baby. On that particular evening, you were more than simply a technician. For taking her, you were compensated. In addition, there was a letter written in a frenzied handwriting. If you are reading this, it means that they have located you. Get away. Lila continued her investigation, which led her to discover the truth about the Lockwoods were among the most prominent and wealthy families in the state. But they built their business on lies, extortion, and other nefarious practices. Henry had written a contract outlining a payment of $50,000, and it was dated the week that he brought Lila in. Not only had her biological mother, Vivian Lockwood, chosen to forsake her, but she had also chosen to remain silent. "It is not. I was able to rescue you," according to the documents kept by the police. Vivian had made an attempt to bring to light the wrongdoings of her husband before she disappeared on the same night that Lila was left with Henry. Lila quietly murmured, her eyes welling up with tears. Or had her mother been killed in some way? To make matters even worse, did the Lockwoods realize that she was still alive? After 3 days had passed, A sleek black automobile presented itself in front of the restaurant where Henry was still employed. A gentleman dressed in a well-tailored suit emerged from the building. "Eleanor," he remarked in a nice manner, "your family has been waiting for you." Leela became ice cold. Henry went closer to her, his voice low and menacing as he called out to her. "She's not going anywhere with you. It's evidence that has the potential to bring down their empire." Ack. This guy gave a smirk. "The poor Henry, are you still playing the role of the hero after all these years?" Then he revealed the shocking information. "Are you sure you didn't tell her about it?" The world of Lila began to spin. Did Henry tell a lie? Had he been involved in this from the beginning? Henry's face became faint. "It's not what you think." An envelope was thrown against the counter by the unknown person. "You sold me." Henry's voice was shattered. Through a frantic confession, Henry divulged the truth about the situation. He had been recruited, but not for the purpose of kidnapping her. In order to prevent her husband from having both of them murdered, Vivian Lockwood had paid him to get Lila out of the situation. Oh, what about the money? On the other hand, Henry made the decision to bring up Lila as his own child. When Vivian failed to appear to recover her daughter, the contract was destroyed by me. All traces were eradicated by me. The words came out of his throat. I thought they'd never find us. As Lila continued to gaze at him, her heart began to break in too. Is it possible that the man she cherished as her father was a hero? Or a liar? They were not going to give up, the Lockwoods. They were looking for something that Lila possessed, and it was a key to a safe deposit box that was concealed in her baby bracelet. What's inside? And at this point, they would do everything to get it back. While the restaurant was encircled by black SUVs, Henry reached out and grabbed Leela's hand. "Time to finish what your mother started." The tension builds to a crescendo. "You were always a problem," Lila said to her cold-eyed tycoon biological father when she faced him. "You were always a problem." By putting up a fight against armed men, Henry demonstrated beyond a reasonable doubt whose side he was on. The evidence was made public, which brought to light decades of corrupt behavior. But in the end, Leela was the one who made the decision. What about the name Lockwood, or the guy who sacrificed all in order to safeguard her the next year? Henry and Lila were sitting at their regular diner table, and the light was shining through the windows. Lila was sitting across from Henry. She approached him with a newspaper, which had the following headline: "Lockwood Empire Crumbles, Whistleblower Reveals All." Henry wore a grin. "It's proud of you, kid." She made a move to grab his hand. "You are my father, I say. It is just that is important." And as the coffee steamed between them, the past seemed to finally calm down and become more at ease. As soon as the door opened, the bell of the restaurant began to ring. Until she heard Henry's cup shatter on the floor, Lila hardly looked up from her coffee. In fact, she missed it entirely. Her head suddenly turned in the direction of the door. There was a lady standing there, her eyes the same startling green as Lila's, and her face was creased with the years of anguish she had endured. "Hello, Eleanor," the lady murmured to her companion. He stumbled backwards, Henry. "Vivian?" Suddenly, Lila found herself unable to breathe. Her mother was still living at the time. The author, Vivian Lockwood, told her narrative in a series of choppy bursts. The night that she escaped, the guys who were working for her husband shot her vehicle off the road. After waking up in a hospital with a new identity, she had survived, but she had no recollection of what had happened. It was until she saw Leela's face on the television that she was able to recall the past. "I looked for you," Vivian let out with a stutter. "But Henry, you were supposed to bring her to me? When I was supposed to leave her in foster care? What was I meant to do?" The appearance of Henry's face changed. "There was no sign of you, Vivian." Months passed as I waited. The hands of Lila were shaking. There are two parents. Both sides of the truth are present. Who was the one who lied? On that particular evening, Leela combed through old police files. A name kept coming up. Marcus Cole, who had formerly served as the head of security for the Lockwood family. It was said that he had disappeared on the same night that Vivian was said to have died. However, a blurry security shot drew her attention. It showed Henry delivering a baby who was wailing to a woman who was hidden in the shadows. Perhaps it was Marcus. If such is the case, then Henry had been working with him rather than Vivian. When Leela approached Henry in the garage, she did so while holding the photograph in her fist. Who did you really take me from that night? Despite the fact that she had sent him to bring you to safety, he was being betrayed. As soon as I became aware that the Lockwoods were approaching, I grabbed you and fled away. Shoulders sagged as Henry sat down. Marcus was the only ally that Vivian had. What I didn't know was whether or not Vivian was still alive. However, I pledged that I would defend you in whatever circumstance. Both of their eyes met. She had a strong want to trust him. The question is, why was he considered a suspect? Then, however, her phone rang, and it was an unknown number. Ask him about the fire, the statement stated in the text. Oh my God, is he not going to tell you? 2 individuals were killed in a fire that occurred in a warehouse 23 years ago. It was determined that the case was an accident until Lila discovered a letter written by the investigator that said Arson H. Carter is the suspects. The history of Henry was spotless. It was Vivian who was enjoying a cup of tea when she suddenly burst into the living room. Did Henry set that fire? He was a murderer, yet he was a kind and peaceful man. In its saucer, Vivian's cup made a rattling sound. It was as if a piece of glass had cracked on the truth. They were Lockwood assassins who had come to assassinate Leela, and they were the men who perished. While they were inside, Henry caused the building to burn down. Marcus went to his aid in covering things up. Henry stated in a scratchy voice, "That is the reason I was unable to contact you. I was a wanted man." Lila was taken aback. "Touch me, and she watches you die." However, Vivian then spoke in a low voice and said, "He did it for you." The knock on the door was devoid of any courtesy. There were 6 individuals dressed in black military gear who came in via the door. There was Daniel Lockwood, who was now the leader of the family and was also Lila's half-brother, standing at the rear of the group, and he grinned. "Time to come home, Ellie." Henry rushed as quickly as lightning, with a scowl on his lips and holding a wrench in his palm. The only thing Daniel did was laugh. A firearm was pushed on Lila's head. The proposition that Daniel made was straightforward. Lila went back to the Lockwoods and was given the position that was rightfully hers. Henry and Vivian leave for good and never return. Or, Daniel said, "I bury you all." Lila turned her gaze to Henry, seeing his torn knuckles and his intense affection. Then we looked at Vivian, her years that had been gone, and her optimism that was dwindling. She cocked her chin upward. "I have a counteroffer." The fire alarm was pulled, which activated the sprinklers in the building and sent a covert signal to the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Due to the fact that Lila had one last secret, throughout the whole ordeal, she'd been wearing a wire. The next year. At the time, Daniel Lockwood was serving a sentence of 40 years. Vivian had established a safe haven for youngsters who had gone missing. Henry's record was cleaned as a result of the proof that Lila provided. When Henry was having a peaceful morning, Lila gave him an envelope. There are adoption documents inside. "I'm going to have to take care of you, old man," she taunted. Henry gave her such a tight embrace that her ribs began to creak. Which is why, in the end, family is not about blood relations. It is important to know who is there for you when the world is trying to destroy you.